She was already waiting for me on the porch, arms folded, lips tight, fake clipboard in hand, looking every bit like a sheriff in a bad TV show. Before I'd even stepped out of my truck, she barked, "You can't park here. This cabin's part of the HOA now, and you need to leave." I just stood there, dust settling around my boots, staring at her, at my cabin, at the whole valley spread out behind her, and tried not to laugh at the nerve. You know what I mean? That feeling when someone tries to pull rank in your own backyard? I took a breath, trying to keep it polite. "Funny. I don't remember ever signing up for your little HOA." But her eyes narrowed, and she started waving that piece of paper like it meant something. "Don't play dumb. I put the notice on your door. This is official. If you don't comply, I'll have you removed." She loved an audience, you could tell. Neighbors poking out from behind their curtains, waiting for fireworks. That was her stage, and she wanted a show. But what she didn't know, this wasn't just a cabin to me. This was land my family's had since before there was a paved road in these parts. She got in close, lowered her voice like she was threatening a little kid. "I'll call security. You'll regret testing me." And I almost laughed, but I held it in. "Go ahead," I told her. "Let's see what you got." She smirked, like she was holding all the cards, pulled out her phone, started dialing, muttering about trespassing and some dangerous man refusing to leave. And not 5 minutes later, I heard tires crunching on the dirt. Drive. A black SUV, two big guys in dark uniforms got out. No badges I recognized. "Karen." Yeah, that's what the neighbors called her. She looked like she'd just hit the jackpot. "Arrest him," she said, pointing at me like she was the queen of the valley. "He's breaking HOA rules." Now, I've seen plenty of authority in my day, but these guys, they weren't cops. I could tell from the way they stood, the way their boots hit the gravel, too heavy, too showy. Karen was grinning, neighbors were watching, and the air was so thick you could almost taste it. One of the men tried to get loud. "Step away from the property, sir. You're in violation. We're detaining you." Karen, meanwhile, was behind them, arms crossed, smirking for the whole street to see. "Told you. Nobody defies the HOA." I didn't budge, just cocked my head, looked the taller guy right in the eyes. His uniform looked like the kind you'd order online. The patch didn't match any police I'd seen, and his belt didn't even have a radio. "Nice uniform," I said. "Where'd you get it, Party City?" That got his hackles up, but before he could puff up and get all tough, Karen started shrieking again. "Don't listen to him. Just cuff him already. He doesn't belong here." That's when I let out a slow breath, reached into my jacket pocket. Real calm, real slow. I could feel the neighbors' eyes all on me. Karen froze up, and even the fake cops stiffened like I was about to pull something wild. I flipped open my leather badge case and held it out where everyone could see, caught the sunlight just right. Karen's smile snapped. "I'm the sheriff of this county," I said, steady as a rock. "And you two are about 3 seconds away from felony charges for impersonating law enforcement." The whole crowd went dead silent. Neighbors, the fake cops, even Karen stopped breathing for a second. "That's impossible," she stammered, color draining from her face. "You're lying. This is HOA business." But I just cut her off, voice low but sharp. "This is my land. And in case you forgot, I don't just live here. I own the whole valley." Her eyes went wide, neighbors whispering. Louder now, phones out, recording. The two guys in costume started to shift on their feet, not so sure anymore. And Karen, her whole act was crumbling right there on the gravel. "Don't believe him," she yelped. "He forged that badge." But nobody was buying it. Folks were filming, murmuring. The fake cops tried to back away, but I'd already radioed real deputies. Didn't take long, sirens echoing through the trees. 2 patrol cars pulled up. My deputies stepped out, nodded when they saw my badge, took one look at the situation, and started cuffing the 2 imposters. I handed them the cheap uniforms right there. Impersonation, trespassing, harassment. I listed off, calm as Sunday morning. Karen tried one last performance, shrieking that she was the victim, but by then nobody was listening. They cuffed her too. Her clipboard fell in the dirt, her grand audience now cheering as if they'd been waiting years for this show. Some folks clapped, a couple even whistled. I turned to the crowd, let the hush settle, and said, "I didn't fight for this land just to be told I can't live on it." And that, right there, was the end of her little empire. The valley was Mine, the cabin was safe, and Karen? Well, she finally learned not to pick fights she couldn't finish. You'd think that would be the end, but out here, nothing's ever really over. Some folks still argue about what's fair, who gets to decide what's right, and every now and then, I catch a neighbor's glance and wonder whose side they're really on. But let me ask you, what would you have done? Who gets to call a place home? Who decides what's just? Drop your thoughts below. Tell me if you've tangled with an HOA or stood up for what's yours. Was I right? Was I wrong? Where's the line between community and control? Like, share, and get in on the debate. I want to hear your story that you'd think after a showdown like that. Life in the valley would finally settle back to normal, but you'd be surprised how hard folks cling to a grudge, especially when they've lost face in front of a crowd. Karen may have been marched off in handcuffs, but her little posse, the ones who liked to whisper about rules and community standards, didn't just melt away. If anything, they got bolder, thinking maybe if they just pushed hard enough, they could still carve off a piece of my family's land for their own fancy HOA vision. Let me tell you, those weeks after the big blow-up, every day had a different flavor of petty. I'd come home to find official notices duct taped to my mailbox, warning about fines for weeds that weren't even mine or trash that only appeared after midnight. Sometimes, I'd wake up to a chorus of leaf blowers at 6 a.m. sharp. Guess which neighbor's yard they always skipped. Yeah, that happened. It's funny. You never notice just how creative people can get when they're trying to make you feel like an outsider in your own home. But see, what they didn't count on was my patience. I grew up here, after all, with winters that'll teach you not to flinch when things get cold. So I just kept to my routine, split my firewood, waved at the gawkers, fixed my fences, never rising to the bait. My dad always said, "You never win by fighting on their turf. Make him come to yours." And sure enough, after a while, even the meanest folks get bored when you don't give them a reaction. Now, here's where the story takes a turn, a little twist that still makes me shake my head. About a month later, right as the leaves started to change, I heard a knock at my door. Not the aggressive kind, either. I opened up to see a kid, maybe 14, wearing a hoodie 2 sizes too big, just standing there, hands shoved in his pockets, eyes fixed on the ground. He says, real soft, sir, I'm supposed to give you this." And he holds out a folded-up note. The paper was shaky, written in blue pen, but the words were clear. "I'm sorry for what happened. Not all of us wanted this. Some of us just want things to be peaceful again." And that, right there, cracked something open. Turns out, not everyone in the neighborhood had signed up for Karen's circus. Over the next few days, a few more folks, quiet types, ones who'd always kept to themselves, started stopping by. Someone brought me fresh bread. Another left a pile of homegrown tomatoes on my porch. The message was clear, even if nobody said it out loud. We're not all like her. We just want to live here too. But just when I thought things might finally turn for the better, the county sent out a letter, a real one this time, with their seal and everything. It was an invitation to a public meeting. Concerns regarding property boundaries and community management in Maple Valley. My gut twisted. You ever get that feeling where you know you're about to walk into a room where everyone's already picked a side? That was me, staring at that envelope. The night of the meeting, I drove into town, parked under the old oak tree by the firehouse, and took a second to steady my nerves. The room was packed. Half the valley must have shown up. Some with notepads, some with popcorn, a couple even live streaming on their phones. Karen wasn't there, obviously, still dealing with her legal mess. But her old friends were front and center, trying to rally the crowd. For a second, it felt like the same old script, folks yelling about rules and order, accusing me of endangering the community just by refusing to hand over my land. But then the unexpected happened. Emma, the girl with the hoodie, stood up, all 5'0" of her, and spoke into the mic. She said, "My family's been scared to talk. We didn't want trouble. But this valley belongs to everyone who cares for it. Not just the ones with the loudest voices." You could have heard a pin drop. The tide started to shift. One by one, people who'd never spoken at these meetings started raising their hands, sharing stories about kindness, old memories, the times we'd all come together for floods and fires and block parties before things got ugly. That night, for the first time in a long while, it felt like the valley remembered what it meant to be a real community. not a collection of petty rulers and followers, but neighbors looking out for each other. The county clerk closed the meeting with a promise to review the HOA's claims. And, just like that, the fight was back on even ground. Not because I shouted the loudest, but because enough folks finally found their courage to stand up. So, yeah, I won that first round against Karen, but the real victory was seeing my neighbors choose unity over fear, tradition over control. But let's be honest, these battles never really end. They just change shape. Every so often, a new Karen pops up trying to redraw the lines, claim a little more than what's fair. That's the way of the world, isn't it? So let me ask you, if your whole community was on the line, would you stand up or stay quiet? Ever had a moment where one voice changed everything? Drop your stories in the comments. Hit like if you've ever had to fight for what's right. And don't forget to share this with someone who needs a reminder that home isn't just a place. It's the people willing to stand up for it.